There we go. Cool. All right. Welcome to Mallets and Manuscripts November meeting. This is like the first one with the official name. So, yeah. Cool. So we got a couple of items on the docket today. I'm personally excited because I brought up Kramer Sell's piece, Frog's Magnum Opus, and he's on the call. My good buddy and fellow percussionist, duo partner. So yeah, thanks for being here, everybody.
Oh yeah, live from the van. Look at all these sleeping people in the back.
Cool. Hannah, do you want to go first, or can I start things off?
You can start things off. That'd be great.
I think because I brought it up, we might start with Frog's Magnum Opus. So I mean, Kramer, I would love it if you could like maybe talk to us about the genesis of the piece and anything like that, and we could do a little listening if you want. I've got your recital recording pulled up, so.
Yeah, you got anything you want to say first, or you just want me to pontificate from the start?
Well, I guess I'll say this. Frog's Magnum Opus is a piece for like snare drum and rasp frog. So I've actually got the frog that I've used right here. Steve Weiss special, the Liberty One.
Yeah.
Put Velcro on its feet. But one of these guys. Yeah. I'll start with that. But Kramer, you could talk about like the inspiration and all that stuff, I guess. So.
Yeah, and Joseph, if, at any point, and really anyone, feel free to jump in and say whatever. You know, it's going to be a big formal to do. But yeah, you know how when you're in school and you're just like in the percussion studio and you're like messing around with your buddies, like in between ensemble and stuff, you come up with all these kind of joke pieces. You know, so after being in school for many years, there's a quite pieces, which the one I want to do next is this great kielbasa sausage piece for like kielbasa and sausage, which is going to happen. But no one can steal that. I'll be really upset. So the piece was like, hey, let's have like a frog. Let's do a piece of that frog thing, because like that little frog instrument's like in every studio. It's at every like elementary school percussion hang. It's like I've never seen anything for it. So I'm like, let's have some sort of like duo piece that's like snare drum having some sort of musical conversation with the frog. And the original idea was it to be like kind of like an avant-garde thing, and then it was just like two out, and I'm like, well, let's make it like cute and fun and actually like palatable for, you know, people that would enjoy it, you know. So like after the joke thing, it went to like this out avant-garde thing where I was like getting frog recordings and like writing little rhythms around that, which again was out. And then Joseph had a recital coming up when he started his Ohio State DMA, which I'm from Ohio, which I'm driving through currently back to Tennessee. And I'm like, yo, let's make it fun. Let's do some sort of like, you know, like I love the idea of like a percussion recital in a book bag, where it's like you show up somewhere, you have a book bag and you have, you know, a few instruments in each hand, and you can put on like a 30 to 45 minute program that's palatable and fun and so musical and, you know, really good for the percussion community. And I'm like, well, I can check that box with this piece, like run out style gig. And you know, I know Joseph is an outreach kind of guy, obviously with this group. Like, let's make it you know, geared towards kind of the elementary age kid. And I first went to Kermit the Frog, maybe the most famous frog. And there's, you know, nothing there but an idea. And then I thought about Frog and Toad, which is like one's like easy read one that, at least growing up in Ohio where I did, is like my first chapter book vibes. And I ran to my wife's, she's a school teacher, preschool, and I ran to her library at home and found Frog and Toad and literally opened up the book just for like a splash of inspiration. And it was the letter mini story within Frog and Toad 1. I think Abe LaBelle wrote 4 Frog and Toad, like back in the original kind of heyday of all that. It's actually a cartoon now, which is awesome. Like I think it's on Nickelodeon, Nick Jr. So anyway, I opened up that letter and I'm like, this is it. Like you write 4 movement, like mini symphony style, miniaturettes, duet, but played by one person. And then the story can be accompanied. The snare drumming and frog ribbiting can accompany the story. So it's all based on that text. And again, as like a music school nerd, never meant a whole lot to me because I wanted to play like jazz songs. But many the genesis, I guess. Is that most of that, Joseph, from your memory?
Yeah, you cut out a little bit on my end, but I think we got the gist of like the whole genesis and story. It's just an awesome, like, heartfelt piece of music with like it could be on a recital. It has like real deal application and like purpose. It's just like a multi-application kind of piece where you could throw it in so many contexts and it serves so many different audiences. So all right, I'm gonna share my screen here and just do a little bit of listening for this one here. So it's Kramer, I think, mentioned it's in 4 movements, and in
Yep.
between each movement you're reading text, and anytime the reader says "said frog," you do like a rasp, ribbit, like that. So it's interactive, and you're always engaged in the music making, even when it's just like text that's happening. So the first movement is like a Kramer, you always called it like a little like jazz ballad because it's got a brush as kind of like the main motif, right?
Yeah, it's like the not to go total, nerd mode on it. So like the ribbit motif is just like a partial of a triplet that
Yep.
scrapes up to like a downstroke on the kind of top of that frog, like little knot there.
Yeah.
And so once that's introduced with the text, I'm like, well, let's everybody very aware of what the motif is. So yeah, it's like a smoky jazz ballad vibe. And and I'm sure we'll touch this in the video, but like each movement is like a different kind of snare drum universe. So like the first is kind of a jazz brush thing, which is that Grace brush piece with the metronome, but like what is it, Sleight of a Evil Hand or something, very watered down kind of version of that, inspired by.
Yeah. Very cool. Let's do some listening. Oh, we got 3 subscribers now. Dang. We're popular, Kramer.
Man, dude. Three subs, dog.
You guys hear this okay? I know it's like so the narration. I'm gonna skip ahead just a little bit.
Yeah. That's my sweet wife, by the way.
Yeah, super cool. And it's super short. Each movement is really short. The second one is a like more concert snare drum style movement. Let's see.
Yeah, this was
the hall is so boomy.
Yeah, very.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think quickly on that. Can you hear me there, Joseph?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, yeah. So like I said, the first one's kind of the jazz thing. Movement 2, which Joseph definitely has some ghost writing bars for sure in that. It was kind of like in the style of a Cerrone because we all played the Cerrones and like I never liked playing Cerrone, so this was like my version of like trying to make it fun because it's like you, not him, you know.
Right. Yeah, and then the third movement is kind of based off of Sting's 7 Days, right, Kramer?
Yeah, so there's a cool Sting record from like 93, I think 93, 94, and the tune's in 5, and it's really cool for you to listen to it, especially if you like drumming and percussion. It's really hip, and again, for something that's like mixed meter and pretty outside, it was like very popular, which is always cool when that can happen with like the zeitgeist and all that. So yeah, that's kind of ripped off a Sting rhythm, and this is kind of like the drum set movement. So I played it with like a pair of 5Bs.
Yeah, super fun. And then the last movement is a march style, kind of just like classic
Like Bo Cox and Wannabe.
Will Coxon, exactly. Kramer, did you hear the pitch drop on the frog on that last hit?
Yeah, I don't know if that was just crunched by the internet or something.
Yeah. So I love this piece. I mean, obviously I like commissioned it from Kramer, but like I think it's just cool. And this is kind of the theme between the two pieces I picked today are kind of like, here's an idiom we know in one context specifically, like snare drum,
Yeah.
concert solos, like Delacluse, Will Coxon for rudimental, all that kind of stuff. And then here's a piece that's like inspired by that, but like kind of turns the genre and makes you like rethink like what a snare drum solo in some ways could be while still being like accessible and conventional in a lot of ways. Same thing with the xylophone solo and the other piece I picked. But yeah, I love it, but I'm biased. So what do you guys think?
I'm so enamored with the idea of this piece. Just like you're name checking all of the composers who I love, not Cerrone, but like Kermit and Frog and Toad.
Yes.
Like that is exactly the vibe that I want. And I actually just got my first frog from a West Virginia Welcome Center when I went up to Michigan last month.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to play this piece and I want to get the score to this piece. So that's
I'll send it to you for sure.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, Kramer, Kramer's got some news because this bad boy is going to be published. It sounds like so.
Yeah, it's I did my onboarding process, so it's all in the works. Yeah, which is exciting because I never, it's not like you write to do that. I spend a lot of time on the road. Like I play in a country band that does about 100+ dates a year, so I very busy. But man, just having like an opportunity, like we should be creative as much as we can, and it's like waiting for the bus. You got to show up, and some days it doesn't come. That classic kind of analogy. So yeah, just as we should all try to do is compose when we feel like it, and compose when we don't feel like it. But yeah, this is such an opportunity for me to like, hey, I'm in a hotel all day, like it's like 10. Let's get out my practice pad and a piece of paper. So I'm very thankful and happy for that opportunity. And I'm glad, like, again, I didn't write this piece to be published. It was just a fun thing that just kind of happened.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, Hannah or Craig D, either of you have any thoughts or?
Yeah, so I've heard this piece, I think twice live, right, Joseph? I think so. And what I really like about it is the fact that the music is broken up with dialogue, because I think I've just been reflecting a lot on, like, in music settings, we expect these people who aren't musicians, or even are musicians, to like sit there and listen to a piece for like 8 minutes straight, and it's just music and nothing else is happening. And that's just a lot for people who either aren't used to music or people who even are used to music. And so like having this broken up, I think makes it more, as you said, like digestible and palatable, but also like the story, adding the story is just great. It makes it so much fun because you're like bringing the story to life.
Thanks. Yeah. I just think, like, for me, the big picture, like, I love music because, like, number one, camaraderie. Like, my favorite moments in music school is with people, like playing in ensembles. And even as a professional, it's like I do it for the camaraderie. And then, like you said, like, it's fun. Like, everyone starts on snare drum in like 5th or 6th grade. So, like, that's intro to percussion world. And then the point that was brought up about the frog, it's like that's a novelty knick-knack that we've seen since we were kids. So, like, how can we, and then Frog and Toad is another like thing that we all kind of grew up with. So how can you kind of connect these dots to have like a fun thing that, like, and recitals can be stuffy. I've played really stuffy recitals, and you always want to have moments where like the listener can just like relax and not have to like hold their breath. Like I just went and saw the symphony with my wife last week, and she's a non-musician but loves music, and it's like she's giggling at points like, are we allowed to like clap? Like, can I breathe here? Like, what's going on? So yeah, I try to keep that in mind a lot. Like, music's to be consumed, and that's not in like a scary machine business way. It's just like a great meal. It's like anyone should understand that this is like the best vegan dish I've ever had, or the best steak or whatever, or if it's a McDonald's Big Mac, it's still good. Just understanding everything for what it kind of is and for.
Yeah, totally.
I'll say something.
Okay.
I really like the genre of item placed on snare drum, and then it affects the snare drum. Like, I think Gene Koshinski has a piece with like the marbles, and so I think it's called Sync. But that genre is always great. Or even when people take the snare drums and move them upside down, and you like resonate them with other ringing things, because that means we're growing beyond like just what a snare drum is. But it's also nice because you're like you're coming back to the like roots too. So it's like this great like combination of the two things that I think like no piece does super well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I love I don't know why I gave a thumbs up there.
I want to do that. That was cool. I just waved my hand.
This is Kramer has raised his hand. He has a question.
I'll take it down.
It was actually a logistical kind of not a nightmare because the original plan I think Kramer had was like put the frog on a black towel so it like meets the drum a little bit. But as you can see, even though there's like a long hair hanging off this Velcro, we ended up using like little Velcro squares and putting the feet on that, and it deadens the drum a little bit, but also just like keeps the frog right there. Because what you can't tell from that, I know it's the best camera angle ever, but
Yeah.
you obviously you do the rasp, but then if you play on the very like eyes of the frog, like the tips of the eyes right here, you can see where it's worn down, or on the tip of the nose.
Mm-hmm.
It gets a really awesome like woodblock sound. Reducing. Sorry, that was probably pretty loud. And so we use that like a lot for like a lot of the faster passages and things like that. But it makes it sound like if you ever need like say you have a woodblock, but you need a second woodblock and like a different sound or something, like this is a pretty good alternative.
Yeah.
Which like it's just more reason to buy as many of these as possible.
Yeah, and I'll say this, which is hilarious. I brought my frog, which is just like a vinyl, from a big box store, like Guitar Center or something. And I've used it on like many recording sessions because it track, and if you throw a bunch of verb on it and like space it out, it's like the greatest woodblock sound in like a contemporary kind of setting. I love mine.
Yeah. And I've played this piece like in the context of like an elementary school gig with my twin brother is a music educator, and he read the story and I played it. And like you could do this at like a library with like you could pair up with a librarian for an entire program, and like this is a good chart to put on there. And the kids ate it up. They all wanted to know about the frog, of course, but
because it's a toy. I mean, literally, it's like it's a kid's plaything, like on Toy Story 1.
Yeah, right.
You're a child's plaything.
Exactly. So,
Man, I
cool.
wish Ben Shaheen was here.
Why?
Because so apparently there's like a 3D printing code for making these frogs, and Ben Shaheen, he works at a high school. All his students made a bunch of those frogs in varying sizes.
Yeah, they keep giving them
That's
to him.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
funny.
He sends me a recording of him playing them every time he gets one. Yeah.
That's cool.
Ben also like wrote a piece for Omglocken on snare drum. Like he used the Omglocken as like an implement, which kind of I think is in the vein of this. Again, back to what you were saying, Drake V, with the like playing snare drum with something on it. Like it's a pretty cool chart that he came up with. He's like, I gotta write it out, and I'm like, okay. But yeah. Cool. Well, thanks, Kramer, for sharing your piece. And
yeah, thanks for having me. I'm gonna bounce if that's okay. We got to do a bathroom stop soon. Clap. And my internet is so spotty. I don't want to like be the guy that's bogging down the cyberspace here.
All right. Cool.
Yeah, thank you. I'll be back. It's been a real busy fall, but this winter I'm off the road, so I'll be popping in and chatting with everyone.
Sweet. Later,
yeah,
dude.
shoot me a text or email, and I can send you the pages for that.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Goodbye. See you, everybody.
Later, Kramer. What a guy. Yeah.
I'm gonna play that piece.
Oh, dude, it's so dope. We played it at Michaela's school, and like the kid, like her students loved it. My students loved it, and I don't know. It's just I can't wait for that to get like more like in the zeitgeist. Because I just think it's a really cool addition to snare drum rep, and it's not that hard. There's like a couple of spots that are like a little choppy, but like you could put that on a junior or senior recital anywhere. So, or a master's recital, or a DMA recital like I did. But, yeah, cool. All right, Hannah, you want to go?
Yeah, I can go next. Let's talk about Space Model by Marta Pazinska. I think that's how you say last name, but I'm not 100% certain. So I found Marta's works through going online and looking for multi-solos, as we do when we're like, shoot, I gotta play multi-solo. And so the work I found was actually Spider Walk, which I feel like people know the piece. It's one of those ones that people know. And thank you, algorithm. The algorithm, after I watched like 3 versions of that video, pulled up more of her works. She's got a marimba solo, and she's got this piece called Space Model. And it's for percussion and pre-recorded track, tape. Sorry, not track. And I just think it's a really cool piece because at the beginning you hear it and it's very spacey and you're like, hey, where's this going? And then as the piece goes on, like the parts of the beginning that were played are played again and the performer is like recording more, not recording more, but playing more on top of it. And it's slowly adding up until the end you get like the full picture of, oh, this is what we were going for. And so I just think it's a really cool idea, especially for when it was written. This piece was written in between 1971 and 1975. And so I just think like for the time period, it's also just like a really cool piece. So if we could listen to like a few minutes of the beginning and then a few minutes of like midway through, I think it's halfway when the track changes, and then 3/4 of the way.
Let me know if you can't hear it once the.
Wix is your platform to perform on.
Do you want me to skip ahead, Hannah? Sorry, Lewis, what'd you say? Was it about Wix?
I said classic.
Classic, yeah. Hannah, do you want me to skip ahead or no?
Yeah, like 5 minutes, like 5:30. Yeah, right there's good. That's great.
There we go. Cool.
I think.
Yeah. That was my favorite part when I was listening, was the chromatic like descent on the Glock and then the chime rolling. It's sick.
Yeah, it was sick.
Yeah.
So I really like this piece. I really like also the fact that like there's 3 different kind of setups, and that you can tell there's like a delineation of the form through the performer moving, which I haven't seen the score, but I have seen the score to Spider Walk. And in the score to Spider Walk, the composer, she actually indicates like lighting cues and other things for Spider Walk. And so I'm kind of wondering if maybe the same thing is happening here, where the composer actually thought through like, okay, I want the performer to start in this setup, and then when it like the track starts playing and we add on, the performer's going to do another setup, and then from there to another setup. So, but I don't know that for certain. I'm just assuming that based on the Spiderwalk score. So yeah.
There is another piece that does that, where like the different setups are like the different movements, but I can't remember what it's called. It's by someone named John Sari.
John Sari. It's called Therapy. So
Yeah, yeah.
John Sari of Night Rhapsody and Ground Lines infamy, if you guys are familiar with those marimba charts. Yeah, I was actually going to say the same thing. There's this piece called Therapy, and it's really hard.
Yeah, someone was rehearsing it. They finished their degree after I did, so I left when they were in the middle of rehearsing it. But like every practice room was like vibraphone with like chimes and crotales and a bunch of stuff, and then like a gigantic multi setup with like these alternating like Almglocken and like wood blocks that were set up in like ascending pitch order, and like bongos, and it was like every room had like a giant setup in it, and it was like I think normally people just perform like one movement of it, but this person was like gonna actually do like, and there's like a diagram that like has like a chart, and it like tells you like how to walk. Like it's really interesting, but yeah, I like this one too though. It's like a different take on the same thing. Yeah, this piece.
Yeah, so yeah, I've looked at this a lot because this piece is like, it's wild. And of course, because it's John Sari, it's like insanely difficult. But it has these like same 3, or like again, like a similar 3 setups, and the choreography is written out. Yeah. Anxieties, fantasies, aggressions. Yeah. I don't really know this piece super well, but yeah. I'm glad we were on the same wavelength there. Hey, it's kind of similar. Yeah. It also reminds me of the Stockhausen, the Zyklus or Ziklus, however you say it. But I think that's just kind of the overwhelming amount of like instruments, but and like part of it is the performer really obviously cares a lot about like the sound that's coming out and like all of the choices and instruments, which is great. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, when I first listened to this, I thought that I had opened a second window in my browser, and that the video had just started playing again at like this weird spot, and I was like, whoa, this kind of sounds cool. And then but it's also the way the audio was kind of like pumped, it was, I don't know. But I also was like, oh, is this like, do you play it and record it and then hit a trigger that like plays your live audio back, and then you play along with yourself in real time, and then the third time through it's 2 real-time recordings and you playing in real time? Like that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm not certain because I looked on the website that the composer has, and it just says pre-recorded tape. So I don't know if you buy it, if you get the pre-recorded tape, or if she specifies that you're supposed to do it yourself and use your recording. I don't know which one it is. Yeah.
I feel like it's probably you have to record it, because and I'm surprised, like when I did my DMA candidacy stuff, I researched like the earliest pieces that use like tape or like recording or recorded technology along like for solo rep, and I didn't come across this one at all. So I'm pissed at myself because I was a bad researcher. But like one of the earlier like marimba ones like required you to like record yourself playing like a track prior to performing it. And I think it's probably just has to do with like the capabilities of like maybe like MIDI or something back then, but well, um, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
If we can just take a brief tangent
Oh, yeah.
to early works for percussion and tape.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with I have to find it because this is a deep, deep cut. Arthur Krieger's Dialogue for Steel Drums and Electronic Tape, composed 1974, premiered at Manhattan School of Music in 1975.
No.
No, please enlighten us.
Either. That's as much as I know. I found a New York Times article, quote, a novel idea in drum tape music from April 2nd, 1975. I'm assuming from the premiere. I'll send a link. I wrote my comps in, I wrote my comps in 2020. And so my entire recital was all steel pan music because that's what I could play. I was actually supposed to play Spider Walk on that recital, and then that didn't happen from Alex's dad's basement. I was also supposed to do a marimba quartet on that recital and 3 moves and just a lot of other. I was like, this is my last time being in school. I'll have all these instruments I'll have access to. That nothing will take away my access to instruments in the month leading up to this recital. But anyways, I did a kind of deep dive on steel pan rep, and I found something about this piece from 1974 with tape, and thought that you would be interested in that.
I love it. There's a 1974 must have just been a hot year for percussion and tape because I went back to my candidacy paper just now and I found this piece called Synchronisms Number 5 by Mario Davidovsky.
Is that the timpani piece?
Is it a what?
Is that the timpani piece?
It's my paper just says it's some piece with percussion ensemble. So I have no idea. Other than I cited it from a DMA dissertation from the University of Iowa from 2015. So, yeah.
It's for percussion ensemble because I just looked it up video wise. Yeah, there's videos of it.
Cool.
It's from a set of synchronisms that are
Yeah.
all for different instruments. Oh, it's from the same center that Milton Babbitt ran, like the Columbia Princeton like electronic thing that they did together. That's like what he used to make the tapes, apparently.
Gotcha. Then the marimba thing I was thinking of was Ivan Patachich, Ivan Patachich, Metamorphosi 1. That was 1978, so I was completely wrong in my paper, and I'm a bad researcher. But yeah, that had pre-recorded like marimba, and that one I remember being kind of cool. But yeah,
Lewis, I just looked up the piece you just talked about, and I found a recording.
Oh, cool. Wait, I was probably a bad researcher too. Where did you find that? Yeah.
I just Googled the name and it came up. I don't know if it's the right piece, but I think it is. There we go.
Dialogue for steel drums and electronic. Cool. Who did this? I'm so interested.
I don't know who did it.
Y'all on the recording, you're welcome. You got a lot of new listenings to listen to.
Oh,
Addresses the recording.
Samuel Solomon, New York New Music Ensembles recording of the works of Arthur Krieger.
Oh, you said Sam Solomon did it?
Yeah. So this album, so the recording that Hannah sent, thank you,
You're
is
welcome.
from the album Meeting Places, released by Albany Records 2003. Featuring Caprice for percussion quartet and sound files. I think we just need a less unified way to talk about tape pieces, like tape, track, media. I brought up the piece for Boombox by Jacob TV the other day.
Yeah.
Caprice for percussion quartet and sound files. Just as many different ways as we can to say the exact same thing would be great for me.
Yeah. I think there's also the emerging like, well, I say emerging and it's not emerging, but like live processing is becoming more and more common. But like live processing and like delay is, you know, been around forever in terms of with percussion or like solo or percussion ensemble. But like an early example of that is like Fabian Theory, which slaps, the Nigel Westlake. I love that piece. But then the like Mo Halloran like has a marimba quartet or marimba trio or something.
Yeah,
Shell, which is super cool. And then is her piece she also wrote that marimba solo that everyone plays, right? How sweet
the thought of you as
You as impotent.
yeah, which is cool. I like that one too. But
I like that one.
I think there's like, again, somebody might be like, oh, that's marimba, and I don't know if they would call it tape, but they would like kind of bundle everything as like percussion and electronics. But it's like, no, that's completely different, like logistics as well as like just like sound profile compared to like this piece, multi. So
okay, I looked up more about Arthur Krieger. It looks like he passed away at the beginning of this year.
Oh.
1945 to 2023. And I cannot find, so I'm looking on American Composers Alliance and I can't find dialogue. So I might hit up Sam Solomon and see if I can figure out where to get the score, because now I'm interested.
That'd be sweet. You should submit it so we can talk about it in the next meeting.
Yeah, if I can find anything about it besides your recording.
That's cool.
Yeah, I dig this multi though. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, and 1 second just to like talk about the performer. So I found Rebecca through another video. And this performance is actually from a concert she did where she took works by women and the whole concert was about that. And I'm very impressed with her playing overall, and I've looked at a bunch of her other videos and I think she's just done a really good job with all of the work she's played. So you should look at her profile and see what she's playing, because I think she's doing a great job.
Cool.
Yeah, we're hitting subscribe right now on the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
She's got a Sarah Henney's recording I want to check out. So among other things. Ooh, and this Alvin Singleton vibraphone piece, which I'm working on right now. So yeah, cool. Yeah. I dig it. I like the interplay between the toms and bongos and the Omglocken / other metals in that first kind of like formal section, especially.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it other than that. I just kind of liked it. So. And I love vibraphone fast motor always. Like that is like the best, like spookiest, like most underwater sound ever, and I love it so much. And I wish more people would play with the motor on full speed. always.
I thought it was super cool, actually, how the piece starts like with unpitched instruments, and then like moves into the low pitched instruments, and then moves to higher pitched instruments. I just thought that was cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Like moving up the orchestral score.
Yes. Well, do you want to move on?
Sure. Unless anybody else has anything, but yeah, we can jump into the Zach Kors Sonata. Have you guys heard this piece before, Trigby or Lewis?
I haven't.
Okay. I've played it, not successfully because it was a lot, like I was juggling a lot of things, but I've learned it and it's pretty cool piece. I'll just play a little bit of it and then I'll talk about it. But this piece, you really only need to hear like the first like minute or so anyway. But also, I love that it says the title is Sonata for Susan, which is the but it originally was titled Sonata for the video is from when it was called Sonata for Xylophone. Deep cut lore. I'm gonna stop it there. Because it just kind of keeps going. But yeah, a couple of meetings ago, I mentioned that like 2 mallet rep is something that I just like sometimes really struggle to like find things that I like, especially for like giving to students. This piece is pretty tough. So like I think like a student that's like really into 2 mallets, or like anybody that's into 2 mallets, like this is a good recital piece for sure. It's also like a really nice alternative to playing a rag or just like playing Bach in a lot of ways. It's really long, so it fills, a good chunk of like a recital program, but it's technically hard and it's a lot of notes, and tests accuracy kind of in the same ways, and like style and dynamics in a lot of the same ways of Bach and ragtime, which I think it's a cool kind of, maybe not like a fusion of just those two genres for sure, but I can kind of see the synthesis there. So a little bit about Zach. He's a composer, and I think he's still in Columbus, but he's from Ohio, went to Ohio State. I met him at PASIC in 2016 and got a copy of this from him. So that's how I learned about the piece. But it's currently published through Tab Space under the name Sonata for Susan. You can play it on marimba or xylophone. It was written as a Christmas gift to Susan Powell, the OSU Christmas party in like 2015 or something like that. yeah, Zach plays and teaches around Columbus. He's in two chamber / performing ensembles, Nisley and C State. C State's kind of like a little percussion trio he's in. It's really cool. It's kind of, the piece is kind of in sonata form, roughly. If you listen to it, it kind of presents the themes at the beginning and then runs off it more rhythmically as it goes on. So, and he's sort of, especially in that last bit, you can kind of hear some of the influence of ragtime with the rhythms and the hands, what the hands are doing. So, yeah, it's pretty idiomatic to learn. I think there's a couple of stickings written in here and there, but it's written by a percussionist, so of course it's going to lay pretty well. But yeah, like I said, it's a really cool alternative to playing like a ragtime xylophone piece, or the D minor cello suite for the 30th time. So, yeah. What do you guys think?
This is gonna sound like a dig, and I mean it in the best possible way, but it sounds like Midwestern emo exotic birds.
He probably would be cool with that, honestly.
Like, I mean that compliment that it is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I see it. I hear it.
I think that this piece is cool, specifically for the fact that Dr. Powell, just like knowing her, she did the Pasek concert where like she did xylophone in non-ragtime context to like show what the xylophone could do. I think it's really cool that Zach wrote a piece that does that, where the xylophone is not used in a traditional setting and it's just playing solo. I also think that, just talking more about Zach, I played his duet Merge for 2 marimbas, and I think it works on 4 1/3. I'm pretty sure it does. But I played that as a sophomore and I learned it with somebody else within 2 weeks. So it was like, it's pretty easy, and it's very pretty, similar to this in terms of just like, I guess, like chords and structure. So go check it out.
I guess my other thing is like knowing that it can be on marimba as well. I don't know how xylophony it feels, like, because it's non-traditional use of xylophone, and even because like the mallets that he used in that recording are softer mallets, it sounds more like high marimba than xylophone. So I think it is really a good piece and a marketable piece as like accessible on a smaller range instrument. But I don't feel like it adds so much to the xylophone, like the conception of what xylophone is, so much as it is an option of something that you can play on xylophone. I would really like to see it or hear it on Mallet Station, since those have similar ranges, and I think that has way more timbral capabilities, and just like, especially given the type of music that it is, I feel like it could be really neat to hear it interpreted that way. But I don't know. I'm not 100% sold on it yet. I almost want it to have that, just like a little bit of that xylophone bite in the recording, even if it's something like one hand, like the right hand has a harder mallet and the left hand has a softer mallet, so it's graduated, but you still get that like bum bum kind of character that I feel like it's missing.
Yeah.
I think it's
Go ahead.
interesting that you have that opinion, because I've actually heard this piece with even softer mallets where people have actually used yarn. So I've actually never heard it with harder mallets. And I do wonder how that would change like the character of the piece, because I agree that the softer mallets definitely changes the timbre of the xylophone.
It almost feels like a cop out if you're going to use super soft mallets. It's like at that point, just play on a marimba.
Yeah. So that was like the hardest freaking thing when I played this was like, what mallets am I supposed to use? And I tried the innovative OS ones, which are like a little harder than the old Becker green mallets that Ben uses in this recording. But like I found I couldn't get soft enough because like when you're in that low register, he's like piano. And I'm like, whoa, you like that's so hard. And also it's like not gonna sound piano no matter what I do. The Anders wrapped xylophone mallets, the old Anders ones that Innovative still makes that are just like the AA chord wrapped xylo mallets, they get pretty hard in the low end. But they're still covered enough that you can play softer up top. And I think that could maybe work like a little better than like a yarn mallet, but even then, yeah, like I agree with you guys. I wonder if maybe um I wonder if this piece would have like a different vibe if it was played on like a Deegan or a Bob Becker special that is tuned to like the in the quintal tuning versus the octave tuning that you do for like you guys know what I'm saying, like marimbas or whatever. Because that might give it that like a more bitey or like funky sound to it, and maybe that would change the character a little bit. I don't know. Yeah.
I also, just talking about wrapped xylophone mallets, maybe the Sandy Rennick field mallets might be good for this.
Yeah. Yeah, this piece is it's for me. Hannah and I were texting about it earlier because Hannah was like, you and Kramer should play this piece and like arrange it for like xylophone and drum set or like marimba and drum set maybe. And I think that could be cool.
Yes, it should.
I think that could be cool, like given some of the like almost like song like nature of or maybe not song like, but poppy kind of nature of the piece. But I also and I think that could be cool with like Mallet Station. What was I trying to say? I don't remember. Yeah, it just the piece is really it's really long, and it goes on for a long time. Kind of just saying the same stuff, and in like a good way. And I get it; it's like part of the form, but it's almost like so monotonous on the xylophone, especially. And Ben has a recording through Tap Space of him playing this on marimba. I haven't really listened to it a lot. But I know that it's up there on YouTube. But yeah, I don't know. Kind of fascinates me that like her mission with that 2011 PASIC clinic was to like elevate xylophone. And I don't know, besides this piece, if there are other like xylo like solo xylo or like besides this and like the Christopher Dean, which was part of her concert, like what else is out there that is not a ragtime solo that features like xylophone? Do you guys know? Do you have any?
Running with Scissors by Gene Kaczynski. It's from the It's from the Two book.
Okay.
So in the book, it specifically, I know this because one of the sophomores at Hart just played it. But it was written for the Connecticut chapter. They were having like a xylophone day, and so Gene wrote it for that. And while technically I would say it's not novelty ragtime, it's a different category. He definitely does use a lot of like the tricks that you see in xylophone ragtime of like, doing octave displacements down the bars chromatically, thirds, all the stuff that we've seen xylophonists do.
I am so mad I didn't know about this piece like a year ago, like before I did my senior recital, because, or even like I think I did when I did the whole xylophone thing, like part of my degree, I did like a rag, which is like great, but I was just kind of like, I feel like this does the same thing, but it would be like good, like it's like a good thing to learn because it's not like as I don't know, the rag, there was something about it that like my brain couldn't like comprehend. Like I couldn't have like as much fun. Like I feel like this fits more like the vibe of like someone who is like not like because I feel like rags, you know, they have like the very outward, like you're at like some sort of party or something and it's like very outward, like the mood of the piece. And this has like a very nice, like chill vibe to it that I like because I feel like the xylophone is typecast so hard in every piece ever, especially orchestral music and stuff like that. I'm just happy that there's something that's not like party music that I can like enjoy and be like a sad emo Midwest person and play xylophone stuff that benefits me. That's my 2 cents. I'm from Wisconsin, so I feel like I can be Midwest emo. Is that like Midwest enough? I hope so.
Yeah, it's I I'm on the quest for something new from the xylophone. Um and that was like, oh man, I had the idea of like being like, Dr. Powell, we should do like a retrospective now on your like clinic and be like, cool, so you did this. Is there anything else out there? Like, did this spur any creativity from folks? Or like not even directly, like is there anything else out there that we just need to go out and find? And like, I don't know. Because like every band room has a xylophone. In fact, they're more likely to have a xylophone than they do a marimba. So like, why isn't there more out there? And I think part of it is because it's like it is such a typecast instrument. It's such an abrasive instrument in some ways that like it's very limited in what it can do, but maybe it just takes a lot of people to like give it a shot and write for the xylophone to figure out these new things that we can do with it. Because you know, people would say the vibraphone is limited in some ways, but or the marimba or whatever, not even just keyboard instruments, timpani, whatever. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, every time, like especially because I'm doing my composition degree right now, I am in like an orchestration class, and they're like the percussion. I don't know, the way they teach percussion is like this instrument has one function. It does this. It has this character. Use it only in this context. And then you're like, you sit there and there's like, you're like, there's so many things you can do. And they even tell you, they're like, percussionists love like exploring. And then the way the class is set up though, it's like backwards. It's like, yeah, but only use it like in this exact context. And then I feel like sometimes people get like mixed signals. Also, there's like, I won't say which book it is, but there is a really, if you figure out which book it is, there's an orchestration book that's kind of famous that has a section on flexitone and it writes like a precise melodic line for the flexitone. And then I went to like the CD-ROM recording and it was just like a glissando. And I was like, yeah, that's because you can't, I don't know. I don't know, man. Sometimes I feel like they just need to get the book out, but I was like, there's like a disconnect there. I'm like, it's kind of old style, but yeah.
You say that it's not precise, but my previous professor, he was pretty precise with the flexitone on this one piece that he wrote, where it was legit pitch for pitch would match what the I think it was Miranda was doing. But that's ridiculous.
What's the piece? I'm interested.
The piece is called Monkey Mind.
Oh,
I don't know if you'll find a recording of it. They don't really like being recorded.
Yeah, you will not find a recording of that.
yeah, this is just a solo darbuka piece. That's not what that is. Okay. I'll just I know that Juri Seo has the Flexitone Quartet. That's a really cool piece because it's like bowed flex. It's like her series of like quartets where they're all playing the same pocket-sized instrument, like wah. That's another piece. But that one was cool. But that was like bows, so I feel like it's easier to hear like what pitch you're doing. But yeah, maybe I'm just not. Maybe I'm like a bad percussion composer and I'm just not up to date on my Flexitone writing, which is very possible. And I apologize for that ignorance.
No, I think you're correct that most of the time, like, flexitone isn't pitch precise. I think that dude is just crazy in the best way possible when it comes to, like, I'm going to get this to do exactly what I want it to do. Because he does the same thing with what are the drums with the strings on them?
Go
That you can
knows.
change pitch? Yes. He does the same thing with those.
That's so funny. Yeah. Yeah. So xylophone. Yeah. Fun. Love it. It's hard. Obviously this piece needs a 4-octave, which is also limiting for some places. But yeah. Also, Lewis, I checked out that book you recommended for 2 Mallets, the Momentum book from Texas, and I really dig it.
It's so good. I love that book.
Yeah, I have it right next to me, and I'm having one of my students play like the first solo out of that point of reference. It's really cool. I might bring this book up and the Mark Bozeman 4 Mallet marimba book up at some point here, just because I think they're cool method books that at least I don't know a whole lot of people that are using them, but yeah. So yay, 2 Mallets. All right, I'm done.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to the last piece. If anybody has, we good to move on? Great. Okay, so the last piece is Servo by Thomas Kochev. This piece was written for Icarus Duo, which that's just the 2 percussionists from Icarus Quartet. The piece was written in 2019, and it's played off of a setup they share the one instrument that you see them play at the beginning, and then from there the 2 players have a mirrored setup, and so they're playing the exact same things. So as one player moves their right hand, the other player moves their left hand. So yeah, I found this video when looking for duo rep, and it's really hard. It's really hard. I have the music. We can look at the music. It's insanely hard, but I think it's a cool piece. It's almost like a pumpkins on multi. So could you pull up the recording, Joseph?
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
All right. You want me to just play from the top or?
Yeah, you can just play from the top, and then we'll go like probably halfway through the piece and listen to that. Cool. Now you could skip ahead. And then could you go to like I think it's a minute 30, I want to say. We're going to like backtrack for a second. Yeah, I think there. Cool. So I picked this piece for today because I still don't really know how to feel about it. It's, I think sonically, like, I enjoy it. I think it's cool how there are moments where the players are perfectly together and moments where they're not, and then there's other moments where they're dialoguing off each other, and I think that's very apparent both in the visual aspect of the piece but also in like what you're hearing. However, the thing that I'm still on the fence about is just how difficult the piece is. Like, let me share the score so y'all can look at it. How do I do that? Allowed to share window, allowed to share, just share screen. No, I want to share the screen. Oh, is it not going to let me? One second, I'm trying to figure out how to do this. There we go.
Yep. Oh, you got it? Okay.
I got it.
There we go.
Okay. So here's, instrumentation. But like here's the first page. Just, we have a lot of quintuplets, triplets, sevenlets, and they're all placed in very weird places. We have the 3/2. The 3/2 in measure 7, actually, this one's pretty easy because it just ends up being triplets. I don't know why it wasn't just written as triplets. But if we keep going, where is it? Yeah, like these 5/3 moments, this 4/3 moment, it's difficult, especially because this 5/3 really comes out of nowhere. And there's no way to know, like, the metric modulation just occurs. There's no way to figure it out ahead of time. So yeah.
You know what would frustrate me initially with the score, honestly. You know, rhythms aside, like stickings, um, it, especially for a piece that like is unison like the entire time, and like obviously there's like the mirrored aspect to it, but like I'd have to go back and because Bailey and Patsik have a recording of this too, and I wonder if like they follow a similar vibe where it's like, oh, you're playing right hand lead, I'm playing left hand lead, kind of, or like anything you play off the right hand, I'm playing off the left hand.
Yeah.
I just like reading that score, I'm like, man, I would have loved like a couple of stickings just to make that a little bit easier, but
Yeah.
also just from a like the key itself being only ascending, like I don't know, I feel like you could delineate using like different note heads, and maybe that would just like make that an easier read. I don't know. I don't know if you guys have any like specific feelings about like using X and like diamond note heads and things like that to like delineate like timbre, especially, but like in a piece that's like glass, metal, big wood thing, bass drum, I feel like you could still do the ascending thing and give every single thing its own line, but like visually with the density of like the rhythm, I'm like, man, I feel like I would have a better time like tracking the surfaces with like a change in note head. But that's just me.
I think I feel like I'm on the fence when it comes to the note head idea. And I think for me, it's more, I think about it more when I'm composing because I want the change in note head to almost signify more of like a change in timbre on the same instrument than necessarily like a change of instrument, if that makes sense. Because like in my brain, like going from a, like if we're talking marimba, like going from a C to a C sharp, like the note head isn't changing, but the pitch is changing. But then the timbre is staying the same. But like if I'm going to take a xylophone mallet and drag it against the bars, like maybe I want a change, like even if it is a C and a C sharp, I think I want a change of note head because the timbre isn't the timbre that you expect. I think, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's completely, that makes a lot of sense. And also like the glass and metal sounds, like everything's so short in this piece that I think that lends even more credibility to your argument of not changing note heads. So I see where you're coming from. I don't know how to feel about this piece either in a weird way. Because we listened to his snare drum solo and I thought it was really cool. The Obligado snare drum music #1 or whatever with the Celine Dion song.
Yeah.
Which was super cool. I also think like very rhythmically like difficult in terms of like the ratios that he uses to like quantize like within one measure. But in a way, this is going to sound really mean. Well, you might take it as mean, but or somebody might, but this almost like I could see like a drum corps doing this, like using this as like a battery feature in some way, just because it seems just like a lot of like ramming notes. And maybe that again, maybe that's disparaging and like mean, but I just like it's just like and that's all I can think of. Yes, Lewis, do you want me to call on you?
This is so funny because your drum corps comment is exactly what I was thinking, but not at all. I was thinking this is like if you wanted to play one of Andy Akiho's pillars, but you only had 2 people.
Yes, yeah, no, I agree. Yeah.
Sonic profile of like glasses and hitting the side of a drum and hitting toms and a break drum. And even some of those like paired split moments, like I'm thinking about the bass drum, break drum duets that happen in 1 and 4. It's like it is exactly it's just like so pillar pilled in a way. And it is that same like kind of drum chord virtuosity. The other piece that I can't help but compare this to is As One, because it is the side by side mirrored effect. But I actually like this way better than As One, because my issue with As One, and Benson, if you are watching this on the recording, don't tell Gene I said that. I mean, you can tell him I said this. Oh, I can back it up. But my issue with that one is like if I close my eyes, it sounds like one person playing marimba and one person playing drums. And when I hear people that are not quite percussion duo play it, usually it sounds like one person playing marimba, but it's a little out of time, and one person playing drums, and it's a little out of time, because unless the splits are happening perfectly, then it just feels off kilter. And I feel like that's the issue with just like Hocket based pieces. Is it?
Dang, you've heard me and Kramer's recording of As One then.
That was not a shot at anyone, but that was a shot at me if I try to split stuff. Even like me trying to play the bass drum and bell part for Pillar 4. But it's like the sonic experience of it, to go back to what Hannah said, it's like the sonic experience of it doesn't really match up with the difficulty of the piece. And it makes sense to me just knowing what I know about Icarus Quartet and their vibe. It seems like a piece that they would seek out, and like knowing that Matt is a rudimental snare drummer, like it makes sense that they would play it, but I don't see it. I don't know. hold in my brain the desire for percussion music to be more artistic and more encompassing than just playing the notes on the page and be in this more total art space. Like we had lighting at our percussion ensemble concert. We did it in the Black Box Theater. I went to the dance show last night and I was super jealous of all their production. But then I see pieces that are written with visuals in mind and I'm just like, ah, come on. So I don't know. I want more stuff like that, but then every time I see it, I'm just like, no, not like that. And I don't know what the solution is to that, or if my standards are too high, or if I just like don't know what I want. But that
So do you mean specifically like the idea that it's like to go back to the as one is like an example, like it's the split setup, like mirror effects, like same stickings but like opposite hands, that kind of visual effect?
yeah. Well, it's like I think that one in particular is
Yeah.
like you have to watch the piece to get it, and
Yeah.
it doesn't work on Spotify, which I don't think it has to, but I feel like this one at least, and maybe I'm just thinking about like having listened to the Pillars recordings on Spotify, like this kind of writing at least translates, and there is a sonic goal of having two people playing the same rhythm on the same surface. Like it does sound a certain way. Whereas like hocketing across a bunch of toms and bongos does not.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
like 8-on-3 and 9-on-2.
yeah.
It just sounds like a mess. Like, well, that sounds mean, but like it's just like
Yeah.
could be one person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. It like relies on the visual. So we played, Kramer and I played as one for in the same show that we did, Frog and Toad, because we had played it on Kramer's recital. And I was gonna put it on one of my DMA recitals because I had just learned it, so I was like, why not? Just like it's an easy thing to work back up. And Dr. Powell was like, please don't put this on your recital. Because she was like, it's just so, again, it sounds like mean to say, but it's like that it's just kind of gimmicky in like a canned kind of way, you know?
Yeah.
And not that it's like not good or like it's hard. It's hard to play. And certainly like challenging and like made Kramer and I like a lot better at playing with each other as a result. But like at the end of the day, it's like cool. I played this as kind of like a visual like stunt, versus like not that it doesn't have musical merit because it definitely does, but like what did I get out of playing that piece? Other than like some synergy, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Which like, I don't know, I guess part of it too is the production of it. Like I think this is a really well produced video, which I think brings out the best parts of the visuals of this piece. Obviously, Pillars are super highly produced, whether you go see them live or whether you watch the film anthology. I don't know. I feel like maybe it's just the production. If I go see a performance of 8-on-3, 9-on-2, it is on an orange wooden stage with the same lights, like the same stage lights up. And so it doesn't really add to or highlight that sight gag. So I don't know. That's my take.
I have an interesting perspective on this because I think a little while ago I was asked to write like a bunch of duos at once. Not all of which actually came to fruition, but it was interesting. I was thinking about duo rep and like not only playing it but like doing it. And I found that like every percussion duo essentially boils down to like playing things in unison or hocketing things. Like those are like the two things that happen in like every duo, or they are the entire duo. So I think I tried to break that, but I had like a drum set duo that I never finished. That was like, I remember from a conversation we had like the glockenspiels, like the perfect drum set thing. And I think it was like, there was like a glockenspiel in the middle and there were like two drum sets. and then the drum sets were like every time they hit like a drum or something, it would like do something to the melody. So it would like move it around or change the note or whatever. And so that was like my way around that, was like maybe there's some like theoretical way you can get around it. But then again, like I'm not thinking at all about the visual aspects, and then it would just be this crazy like mess of sound. And so like I feel like especially with the duo, it's like that genre I feel like devolves into like the same type of thing so much. So it's a real challenge, I think, from a composer's perspective to get out of that box, because like the percussionists are so good at like hocketing, and it's actually like a fun like thing to watch in unison. So like it's like this easy like, oh, they'll love this, playing it and watching it. Let's just do this. But I don't know if anyone has any ideas to like break out of that like box and like still make something that's like intriguing. I'd be eager to hear it.
I have no idea.
You hear it? I feel like every time, and it's the same kind of thing. It's like for multi-duos, it's either you're in unison or you're hocketing or you're mirrored in some combination. And it's like, or you can write a marimba and vibe duet where the vibes have a pretty melody and the marimba plays chords. And they swap for about 30 seconds, and it sounds kind of bad because of the orchestration. It's like there has to be another way, but I don't know what that is. Well, and the other thing too, not to bash on Gene Kaczynski, but I saw that they did a call for scores for Quay Percussion Duo, and in the call it was like, familiarize yourself with our work to see what kind of stuff we play. And I was like, the world is about to get 50 more Hocket pieces. Like,
yeah, not to throw shade, but that was exactly what my idea was based on, because I was going to enter that competition. And then like I was like, what is the reason that someone would set up a mirrored setup and put a keyboard in the middle? And that's what I came up with.
Yeah, I saw that call and I was like, maybe I'll send something in for this. And then I thought about it for like 4 more seconds. I was like, I don't really want to write a Hocket piece, and I feel like it's not going to get picked if I don't write a Hocket piece. So I'm just going to write a duet the next time I feel like writing a duet, and not for this call. Which, like, power to them for being really good at that and knowing what they want. But also I was just like, I feel like I know. I feel like I can already hear the winning piece.
Yep. And
So,
to kind of talk about this a little bit more, I think no one wants to break the mold because the mold sells copies, right?
That's a great point.
Like,
Yeah.
like 2+1 is a hit, so people are going to continue to write a marimba duets for one player on either side, because it's oh, whoa, never seen that before. It's like, well, have you been on percussion YouTube in the past 15 years? Like, it's in DCI. It's every kid plays this on a senior recital now or junior recital and whatever. And it's good and it's fun. It's pretty music, but at the end of the day, it's like that piece, like As One, is more about, and maybe it's, maybe I'm biased, but it's like, it's more about the visual element than it is about like being a duet, I guess. Well, maybe it is. Maybe that's part of the visual element. Is the visual element is it's two people in one thing, just like the seesaw piece, the guitar one, too, right? So I don't know, and we're seeing a commonality between that piece, those 3 pieces, As One, seesaw, and 2+1. We see some connective tissue there in terms of people, but not to say that they're like bad or like not worth playing, because they are. They're not bad. They are worth playing, I'm sure, and they're accessible in terms of like sonority, but like it's no one's wanting to reinvent the wheel, and that's at the end of the day, it like makes things like this. Again, I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this, because it's just DCI and like unison and mirrored and like stick trick, like hold the stick up in unison. So I'm done. I'm done with that.
Just to bounce back to the Andy Akiho influence, I don't know if Trigby or Hannah, if you guys saw at PASIC the new Michael Burritt piece for Third Coast, but it is very pillory in moments. Like, I think there were bottle scrapes and drummy splits, and there was something else that like really got me. I don't remember what it was.
The metal pipes.
Oh, it was the metal pipes.
Yeah.
It was the two people playing on either edge of a metal pipe. And I think the metal pipes were scraped, right?
Yes.
Cool. Great.
Yeah.
So, anyways, not to be a hipster about it, but as a 4-mallet steel pan player and composer, I was ripping off Andy Akiho way before everybody else. And I'm glad. I just feel affirmed. I feel vindicated by it now.
I love his music, so I'm cool with everyone ripping him off. But you know, it's weird that like we're talking or that this comes up because there was also what 2 groups at PASIC that played Pillar One. Oh, hello, balloons. 3 groups at PASIC that played Pillar One. There was a high school group and 2 of the
College
ensemble winners. Yeah, college winners played Pillar One. And this is 2 years after the Third Coast played the whole thing, or not Third Coast,
Sandbox.
Thank you. So
I was getting coffee with Joseph when we saw, or like he got a text that high school was playing Pillar, and I was like, see, the universities are playing pieces that high schoolers can pull off.
That's like there was PASIC one year where they played Jose before John 5, and that performance freaks me out. It's on YouTube, but
that's Florida State in like 2013 or something, or 2010, I think maybe.
That's
Yeah,
another piece though where the marimba's in the middle and 2 people are
I know.
pocketing.
Yeah. That's like, I think the one piece I haven't seen this, it's a marimba duo called The Loneliness of Santa Claus.
Oh, I love that piece.
I've played it. It's great. It's so good. And there's so much you can do. You can like space them out all the way on the stage. You can like get them close together. You can like, but I wouldn't say it's like gimmicky. You probably know better than I do, but like, I don't think it's like there's like cool stuff in it, like hitting the marimba with like the ends of the mallet shafts, but it's not like this gimmicky, like whatever. It's like a cool like texture thing.
Yeah, that piece is in some ways like the way you were just describing, like it's not gimmicky, it's not this like it's not octobones, right? Which octobones is so hard. I mean, that's a cool piece, but like Loneliness of Santa Claus is like a Midwest emo vibe. And from what I can remember listening to it being like, what is this title? What is this piece? Why am I in love with it right now? Like, yeah.
Octobone, Sonata for Susan, Commercial Inclination, not Commercial Inclination. What is that piece called, Joseph?
Which one?
In Process of Invention?
Yeah, what about it?
That fits the Midwestern emo vibe.
Process of Invention by Christopher Dean.
No, I'm talking. I'm forgetting the name. It's the Chris Norton chart.
Oh, Single Generator. I just played that. Yeah.
Single Generator, Midwestern emo vibe.
That is Midwestern emo. I just played that 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, this servo is cool, and I can appreciate the difficulty. I appreciate the like care that went into picking the sounds. But yeah, I don't get it as far as the like what yeah, I'm rambling.
Yeah. No, it's okay. I'm actually playing it right now, which is why I chose it, because I don't even know how to feel about it. Because I'll say the sticking thing was so annoying. It took us, I think, an hour to go through. It's only like you're together for only, I think, 3 or 4 pages. It took us an hour to go through 4 pages and write in all the stickings because it actually doesn't stay the same. So there are parts where like you play it one time left hand and the next time you have to play it right hand because that's just how it falls. Or else you have to do like a weird double or triple and
Ugh.
mess. But it's
Ooh.
significantly easier after you get done with those first 4 pages. It's just 16 notes.
Okay, on the subject of duets that are not going to be hocketed, probably. News dropped at PASIC that Alexis Lamb is writing a piece for Fisher Lau duo. I was at the Fisher Lau Jordan Munson show, and they're like, "Yep, check out this consortium coming up." So keep your eyes peeled for that. I talked to Alexis today, and I forgot to ask her about it. But
Did Fisher Lau end up playing a piece that they used vibrators on?
which one?
I don't know.
I think
just
I
go ahead.
believe there were vibrators involved.
Cool. So I was having a beer with somebody and they mentioned that somebody played a piece at PASIC several moons ago and like used a vibrator on it and then was like kind of like just like never asked to come back and like it was like taboo that they used vibrators and they brought this up and I was like, I'm pretty sure Fisher Lau just used like 4 vibrators on one of their pieces and like took a photo of it and like tagged PASIC on it on Instagram and stuff. And I was like, they ain't getting canceled. They're sick. So
Yeah, because I think Matt Lau was playing the auto harp with vibrators.
yeah, I'm sure it sounded amazing.
Yeah,
So,
that whole piece. I don't know when the recording will drop, but it's so cool. It's this like 45-minute stretched out version of a bluegrass tune.
mhm.
That's cool.
And then like both of them are singing and they're auto tuned, and it's so good.
That's yeah. Their music is they play some really hard stuff, and they're really good. The two of them. I have like a really weird connection with Abby Fisher, where she's friends with somebody that is in my fantasy football group that is like not in music at all. But she and I have never met. But it's like I have this like weird connection across like Tennessee to Arizona. So, but anyway, yeah.
I met her this summer. She was cool.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah. Percussion duos. Fun. Cool. Hannah, next month we're doing a special one where we're talking about composers again, right?
Yes. So Trigby, I don't know if you remember Josh and Ethan.
I sure do.
Okay, they're coming on the call together. They're going to talk about their music, and then they're going to talk about a consortium they're currently in the process of doing.
Is that the one that you and Mackenzie are part of?
Yeah.
Cool. Nice.
So it'll be cool. I think it'll be very interesting hearing them both talk because they write very different music.
Mhm.
Josh, I would say Josh comes from a steel pan background. And his music is like very much influenced by that. It's also very groove oriented, but then he also likes to use found objects in his works, which I think is cool. And then Ethan does more, I would say, like electronic new music stuff, but more still in the contemporary vein. So yeah.
Dope. Cool. Well, thanks for being on the call, you guys. Thanks to anybody that's checking this out after the fact. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the recording off, but we'll be back on December 10th. So coming up pretty quick. So yeah, looking forward to it. All right. Turn off recording. Bye-bye, YouTube.